Thank you very much, Gareth, and thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you for everyone for turning up. This morning, as Gareth said, I'm going to provide you with an update on our project and some recent government decisions. I'll also outline some of the opportunities that I think exist for local businesses associated with the North West Rail Link. So recently the state government announced some changes to the way it was going to deliver and manage the rail system in Sydney. It's known as Sydney Rail Future, and it was the first instalment of the Transport Master Plan, which has recently been released in draft. And within Sydney's Rail Future, it's not a terribly long document, I'll summarise it in a very simplistic way. There's an announcement that Sydney's rail network will effectively be broken up into 3 different tiers. Now, Tier 1 is known as a rapid transit network, and it's what we call a turn up and go service. It's a service where there isn't a rail timetable because of the frequency of the service. You're talking in the order of 5-minute frequencies during the peak period. Very fast, very reliable single-deck trains with more doors than exist in the current double-deck rail stock that you see moving around Sydney. And that provides for a very enhanced form of access for that type of rail. The next tier is what we call the suburban tier, and they're maintaining the double-deck trains that you see on the rail network today. That remains a timetable service, and it provides for the movement of people inside metropolitan Sydney. The third tier is also a double-deck service, but it's looking at moving people from Newcastle, Central Coast, Wollongong and Blue Mountains through and into the city. So there's a deliberate effort to actually separate those 3 tiers of rail services, and in doing so, much greater opportunity to manage them more effectively. Now, the North West Rail Link will be the first stage of that rapid transit network, which is pretty exciting for us, and I think a great bonus for people out here in the hills. And as I said before, that means that the service that we had originally contemplated has changed for the better. So the frequencies that we were looking at in the past won't now be provided. We'll be talking about, as I said, 5-minute frequencies during the peak hours. People won't need a timetable. They just turn up at the stations and they won't have very long to wait at all before they'll be able to get onto a train and move to where they want to get to. That is quite a fundamental change in the service, and I'll get to that in a little bit later on. It really does open up the hills to a whole range of opportunities, not just for people living in the hills, but probably more importantly, it opens up a lot of opportunities for other people in Sydney that can actually come through the global economic arc and come in towards the hills and do business out here. So some things have changed, but some things haven't. We're still in the business of building a 23 kilometres of new railway line, starting in Epping, going all the way through into Blacktown at Cudgegong Road. We're still building 8 brand new stations. We're still providing more than 4,000 car parks at different stations along the route. And we're still building 15 kilometres tunnel, which will be the longest rail tunnels in Australia, as well as 4 kilometres of SkyTrain and some more track work beyond Rouse Hill. We're also still providing very efficient interchanges at each of the new stations that we'll be building. We're still providing very fast and reliable access to a whole range of key centres out this way. We'll be connecting Rouse Hill, Norwest Business Park, Castle Hill, Macquarie Park, Chatswood, St Leonards, North Sydney, and then onto the CBD. And as I mentioned before, that's a huge opportunity for people out here in the hills. A lot of railways in Sydney at the moment actually work effectively in one direction. In the morning they're heading towards town and people just get on and on and on and on. When they get town they all try and get off. And in the afternoon it's the reverse flow. Because the North West Rail Line will actually be providing with fast and reliable access to all those centres that I mentioned before, you actually will have people getting on and off along the railway line. So it's going to be a much better utilised piece of infrastructure than we've seen in other parts of Sydney over the years. And it also, again, opens up the North West to a whole range of other commercial opportunities that perhaps aren't as likely to occur in other parts of Sydney. In terms of a project update, you read a fair bit about the North West Rail Link in the papers, but I'm not sure if many people are aware of the actual achievement that we continually churn out. We've appointed our early works contractor just recently, and that work's underway. Property acquisition is really well advanced. We've got demolitions occurring in certain locations where we have to do it, out in Blacktown as well as here in Baulkham Hills, the Hills, sorry. We're expecting planning approval to actually commence the tunnelling work quite soon. The tendering for the contract for the tunnelling will follow soon after. Tunnel boring machines will be in the ground by the end of 2014. You'll see the second EIS in the coming months. And we're continuing to work on strategic planning with councils, which is the bit that I'll just leave with right now. Whilst building the North West Rail line is a huge task, and it's one that's going to keep many, many people busy for a long time, it, in some respects, is the easy part of the overall equation. What the hard part is to make sure that the North West Rail line leaves an actually enduring legacy for people out here in the West and for the broader part of Sydney as part of that first transit thing. Network, as I said before. So that means that we're working really closely with stakeholders like Hills Shire Council to make sure that where the stations actually land on these new urban, create new urban footprints, that there are great opportunities for new commercial and residential development. We're not just going to put a rail line in and walk away and forget it and say that's great, get there and you'll get a great rail service. We've got to make sure that the growth that Michael has foreshadowed is going to occur in places like this can actually be accommodated efficiently. One of the best places for it is to incorporate and integrate it into new infrastructure, and the North West Rail Link, I think, provides us with the best opportunity. Also working with the Hills Shire, with the Chamber is going to be really important, and we're meeting with Robin later on this morning to look at opportunities to start joining up businesses with future contractors. We could have a workforce in excess of 16,000 people over the life of the North West Rail project. That is a huge boon for this area, and we have to make sure that we capture that. The best way we're dealing with that at the moment is work with the local state and with the state and federal agencies, as well as with Robin and her team. And I'm looking forward to answering some questions for everyone this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.